She is standing backstage in London, 18 years old, about to walk out in front of the entire world. And back home, people are already writing think pieces about whether a girl from Jamshedpur even deserves to be there. That's the moment we're starting in. Not the crown, not the flashbulbs. The doubt that came before any of it. Because here's the thing, nobody tells you about the people we call vicons before the world calls them anything. Somebody close to them called them unlikely. Somebody called them not enough. And the story of how a person survives that gap between what they believe about themselves and what everyone else insists is true. That's not a footnote in a success story. That is the success story. So let's go back. Not to the highlight reel. To the actual beginning. Picture a 13-year-old girl who has just moved to Massachusetts. Thousands of miles from everything she knows. Her parents are both doctors serving in the Indian Army, which means her whole childhood has already been one long lesson in adapting. New schools, new cities, new faces to learn fast. But nothing prepares her for this. She's the new kid with the accent, the different skin tone, and classmates who decide the easiest way to deal with difference is to make fun of it. They call her Brownie, not once, repeatedly. The kind of nickname that isn't really a nickname at all. It's a message. You don't belong here. Now sit with that for a second. Because most of us have had a version of this moment. Somebody decided, before they even knew us, what box we fit into. And what a 13-year-old does with that moment. It shapes everything that comes after. She could have shrunk. Plenty of people do. Instead, something in her. Maybe something her parents gave her. Maybe something she built herself out of sheer necessity. Refused to accept that other people's judgment was the final word on who she was. That refusal is the seed of everything we're about to talk about. Fast forward a few years. She's back in India, and almost on a whim, she enters a modeling contest. One thing leads to another, and by the year 2000, at just 18 years old, she is crowned Miss World. Overnight, her face is everywhere. It looks, from the outside, like the beginning of an easy golden life. It was not. Because here's what people don't see behind a pageant crown. The immediate assumption that comes with it. In the film industry, beauty queen is often treated as a polite way of saying not a real actress. She stepped into Bollywood carrying that label like a weight, having to prove, film after film, that there was actual craft underneath the crown. Her first roles came fast, but respect did not come nearly as quickly. She was cast, then judged, then recast, then judged again. Every single project was a referendum on whether she deserved to be taken seriously. And this is where the turning point of her first chapter happened. Not in one dramatic scene, but in a decision she made quietly, over and over. Instead of chasing the industry's approval by fitting into the mold of pageant girl turned actress, she started choosing roles that scared her. Complicated women, difficult women, women who weren't just there to look beautiful next to a leading man. It built, film by film, toward 2008 and a movie called Fashion, where she played a supermodel, unraveling under the pressure of an industry that chews people up. It was raw. It was uncomfortable to watch. And it won her the National Film Award for Best Actress. The industry's own institutions admitting what she had known about herself the entire time. Here's the principle sitting inside that whole chapter, and it's the first one worth taking with you. Your resume doesn't need to satisfy other people's definition of serious before you're allowed to bet on yourself. She didn't wait for Bollywood to stop whispering beauty queen before she committed to becoming a real actor. She just kept choosing the harder role, the messier character, the performance that made people uncomfortable, until the whispering became irrelevant. Their judgment was loud. Her opinion of what she was capable of was louder. That's the order it has to go in, every single time. Now here's where the story does something most success stories don't do. It doesn't stay in one lane and coast. Because by the early 2010 seconds, she was one of the biggest stars in Indian cinema. She had nothing to prove, financially or professionally, by staying exactly where she was. And that's usually the moment where comfort wins. Where people say, why risk it? You've already made it. Instead, she looked toward Hollywood. And Hollywood, at that point in history, had almost no real precedent for what she was about to attempt. There was no clear lane for a Bollywood superstar to walk into American network television and lead a show. The unspoken rule in the industry was that international stars, especially South Asian stars, got small supporting parts, if they got parts at all. Nobody was handing over the lead role in a primetime American drama to someone whose primary fame was built 8,000 miles away. This is the hidden struggle of this chapter, and it's worth sitting with honestly. Starting over. Not pretending to start over for a media narrative. Actually starting over. Walking into rooms where the people across the table had no context for her career, no built-in respect for what she'd already accomplished. Auditioning at a point in her life where she had already won a Miss World crown and a National Film Award. For a chance that wasn't guaranteed to her at all. That takes a specific kind of nerve. The willingness to be a beginner again, in public, with everything you've built already on the line. And then came the turning point. 2015, ABC's Quantico. She won the role of FBI agent Alex Parrish, and when the show premiered, she became the first South Asian actress to lead an American network drama. Not a supporting role, not a guest arc. The lead. The show ran for 3 seasons, and it did something bigger than launch a career. It cracked open a door that a lot of people had insisted, for decades, was permanently shut. 2 years after that, she made her Hollywood film debut in Baywatch, playing the villain Victoria Leeds opposite Dwayne Johnson and Zac Efron. It wasn't a small, cautious entry into American film. It was a studio blockbuster, and she was right there in the middle of it. Here's the principle from this chapter, and it might be the hardest one to actually live out. The biggest risk isn't failing at something new. It's staying so attached to your old wins that you never find out what else you're capable of. She had every reason to stay exactly where she was safe, celebrated and certain. She chose uncertainty instead, because she trusted her own read on her potential, more than the industry's read on her limits. That's not recklessness. That's someone who had already learned, back when she was 13 and being called Brownie, that other people's low expectations were never actually evidence of anything, except their own limited imagination. Now let's go to the chapter that maybe says the most about who she'd become by this point in the story. Because success in a new industry doesn't erase the specific pressures that come with being one of the only people who look like you in the room. There's a particular kind of exhausting math that comes with being the first. Every stumble gets read as proof that people like you shouldn't have gotten the chance in the first place, while every win gets treated as an exception rather than evidence. Alongside the acting, she'd already been building something else for years. A production company called Purple Pebble Pictures, founded to back stories and voices that mainstream studios weren't rushing to fund, including regional Indian cinema that rarely got international attention. And she'd taken on a role as a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, using the platform she'd built to advocate for children's rights and education. This wasn't a side project tacked onto a career for good press. It was consistent, sustained work, running in parallel with everything happening on screen. Then, in 2023, came Citadel, a big-budget international action thriller produced by the Russo brothers, where she starred, performed her own stunts, and did so on equal footing, pay included, with her co-lead. Think about the distance between a 13-year-old called Brownie in a Massachusetts classroom and a woman standing on equal financial ground in one of the most expensive action projects in the world. That distance isn't luck. It's decades of refusing to accept somebody else's ceiling as her own. And here's the principle from this final chapter, maybe the one that ties the whole story together. Equality isn't something you wait to be handed once you've proven yourself enough times. It's something you build toward, deliberately, film by film, negotiation by negotiation, using every bit of leverage your work has earned you. She didn't get to that equal footing by being quietly grateful for opportunities. She got there by consistently valuing her own worth at the same level she valued the work itself, long before anyone else was ready to hand her that valuation on a silver platter. So here's what all 4 of these chapters are actually pointing at, underneath the crowns and the box office numbers and the awards. At every single stage, the classroom, the film sets in Mumbai, the audition rooms in Los Angeles, the equal pay negotiation on a global franchise, there was a version of the world ready to tell her exactly what she was allowed to become. Too ethnic for this role, too beauty queen for that respect, too foreign for this lead, too established to risk starting over. And at every single stage, she made a quiet, unglamorous decision to trust her own read on her potential more than their read on her limits. That's not a Priyanka Chopra thing. That's a human thing. It's just that her version of it happened to play out on a stage big enough for the rest of us to actually watch it unfold. Because right now, somewhere in your life, there's a version of that classroom. Maybe it's a boss who's decided you're not leadership material. Maybe it's family who thinks your plan is unrealistic. Maybe it's just the voice in your own head, borrowing other people's old judgments and repeating them back to you at 2 a.m. And the honest, unglamorous truth is, their opinion of your ceiling was never actually data about your ceiling. It was just their imagination, dressed up as fact. You don't need the world's permission to start believing the harder, more inconvenient thing about yourself, that you're capable of more than the label they've already put on you. You just need to make the same quiet decision, over and over, the way she did. Choose the harder role. Walk into the room where you're a beginner again. Ask for what you're actually worth, even when nobody's offering to hand it to you. This is your golden chapter. Not someday. Not after somebody finally approves of the plan. Right now, in whatever room you're standing in, with whatever label somebody's tried to hang on you. So here's what I want you to do. Drop one word in the comments below. Just one word. The goal, the dream, the thing you've been talking yourself out of, because somebody else's judgment got louder than your own opinion of what you're capable of. Let this become the moment you said it out loud. And if this story moved you even a little, come join the Golden Grace family. Subscribe so you're here for the next one. Because your story is still being written, and the only opinion that gets to finish it is yours.